Micah Lewis is an artist in multiple mediums, but her main source of income is ink and skin. Extremely hard-working as well as fun, she sat down with me and we talked art, creativity, different forms of tattoos, the stigmas around tattoos, and so much more. I hope you will come and join me as we meet Micah Lewis. But first, if you want to give this video a like or subscribe to the channel, it would really help me get people's stories out to a wider audience. Thank you.
The lower half of my face. And I was like, I don't think it says anything about you. I think you're just used to seeing you with a beard.
No, whenever I did mess up shaving and I had to trim this once, I'm like, I just don't like my chin.
I can't hide mine.
You're fine, trust me.
I'll do my best.
That's way worse. Okay, so enough about mustaches and facial hair. Today I'm talking with Micah Lewis. She is a tattoo artist, and she does work at her studio, I guess you'd call it. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say Iron Maiden again.
Maiden Voyage tattoo. I'll help you. I got you.
Yeah, thank you. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, and yeah.
I'm Micah Lewis, and I own Maiden Voyage Tattoo, and I'm a tattoo artist. Literally everything you just said. Yeah. Hi, it's me.
This is the first one I'm redoing. Usually, like, the first conversation's the best. Like, I try to not even talk to the person too much beforehand. So it all goes
so
onto the
sorry.
recording.
Yeah.
No, I'm the one who messed it up.
We
I forgot
touched
headphones.
base on like 18 different topics already, so.
Yeah.
Including facial hair and chins.
So, let's start at the very beginning. All right. How did you decide you wanted to be a tattoo artist?
I wanted to be a tattoo artist since I can remember. I think like a lot of kids, they are asked at school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I just wanted to be a tattoo artist. I loved drawing, and my uncle was a tattoo artist, and I would see like the tattoos that he had on his body, and I just thought like it was the coolest thing to create art on someone, and it just kind of like continue far past like your own existence, and like something that someone could take with them and show to other people, and I just thought that was really cool. Yeah.
So were you like interested in art outside of that, or was it just like this goal of
yeah, I loved drawing so much, so to me it just made sense. It was like, you know, like do this thing that I love and like get to do it every single day and like really just go with it. So to me it just made sense. Outside of tattooing, like other mediums that I make art would be like I really love watercolor, and I love drawing with pencil, and I can get really nerdy about like the pencils that I have. I have Alvin Drafting Company Draftmatics, and this company's been around like forever, and they've not really like marketed themselves towards artists per se, but it was more of like architects and engineers and things like that. And I found them through another artist who used them, and COVID happened and they got kind of sold out by another company, and so then I bought some different pencils from a different company that was like a French company, and I didn't love them anywhere near as much, and I still have all of my old Draftmatics, but I was like, I don't know, let's see if we can find something new. And yeah, and I also really love like real cedar wood pencils, like Blackwing pencils.
Yeah, so this does interest me because I am nerdy myself. I'm clipping terribly. I gotta turn myself down. We started out really quiet,
and
then it went no. I'm saying
I'll just scream. Should I get back there?
Yeah. No, so the sound thing's completely my fault. I was adjusting it while we were talking. So I like when people go into like their really nerdy fascinations. So what is it about, like, because you said these pencils you used weren't necessarily geared towards artists and stuff, or marketed at least.
Yeah.
So, like, what is it that makes a good pencil? Like, how can you tell the difference?
Okay, so as far as like mechanical pencils, it's really just a personal preference thing. The ones that I like are weighted, so they're like heavier in your hand. To me, it feels more balanced. Lighter pencils, I feel like I'm doing more work of pushing it to the paper, but when one's weighted, it takes like a lot of like pressure that I have to put on my own wrist to take it to the paper. As far as pencils go, real wood to me is the best. One, it smells awesome when you sharpen it. And like true, like a charcoal-y kind of lead is always really great too, because then it's like soft. And obviously there's different things that they'll mix in there to make like the lead softer or firmer. It really just depends on what you're doing. I do like fine line detail stuff a lot of the times when I draw, so I go for more of like an H2, but like a B6 is really soft, and so those are kind of fun to do just like big scribbly kind of sketches with. Mm-hmm. And like that really dark, true, like charcoal-y kind of lead, I think is one of my favorite like feelings on paper. I have sensory processing disorder, so to me, like something has to feel good in my hand, and so that's a lot of what causes me to make the choices that I do. Yeah.
So if you don't mind going into it, what is like the sensory processing disorder?
Yeah. So sensory processing disorder can be kind of like experienced different for people. Mm-hmm. A lot of the sensory that I process differently is touch with my hands or my feet. I sometimes feel things in my mouth. Like I'll touch it with my hand, but then I'll feel like I can't breathe. Or it's kind of hard to explain. And I've been married for like 15 years, and he still is just like, I don't get it. You're so weird. But not in a hateful way. But, you know, he's just
like microfiber.
Yeah,
like
so
me,
like,
we'll do that
yeah,
sometimes.
so yeah. Microfiber for you, but like 90% of things for me. Yeah. And I just feel like certain noises can be really loud and lights can be really bright, and it can make it really hard for me to focus. So, yeah, I I keep my shoes on like 24/7. I think I just take them off just to sleep, and I keep socks on when I sleep, just because when I feel things with my feet, it's disgusting to me. And so I've recently purchased like a specific brand of sock that is comfortable and not weird for me. And so I keep those socks on all the time. And yeah, so there's a fun fact about me.
So like you were saying, like that plays into like what kind of pencils you use and everything.
Yeah.
So like, is there anything like a cheap pencil or something? Does that set anything off with that, or is it just more like artistic preference?
Yeah, so like the ones that are like a weird foamy feeling kind of wood, like you don't even get like the splintery kind of feel when you sharpen it. That really, I feel like I can't breathe when I touch those. And then the ones where the lead is kind of waxy, which a lot of companies will mix like a waxy kind of feeling in with the lead, so it looks shinier, but it's not like that true dark number 2 kind of pencil feel. And the feeling of that on the paper makes me feel like I can't breathe. So, yeah. It just little things.
That's interesting.
And I honestly, I love charcoal. I probably would like draw more with charcoal if I didn't have to touch it or hear it.
Yeah. No, charcoal is a weird thing with me. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Which is weird because like I used to do a lot of blacksmithing, so I'd use like lumped charcoal, but the feeling of the raw things would be weird.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
If I were to do it, you would see me at home wearing like noise canceling headphones and gloves, you know, like, because I just don't want to experience it. But I do love charcoal. Like I drew with it before, but it was I I would get it in like a pencil form, so it was kind of like wood wrapped, but even then like the sound and like the feel of it kind of dragging on the paper is like hard for me. But yeah, it's not my favorite in that regard. So visually, yes.
So like are you mostly self-taught when it comes to art stuff, or did you do a lot of classes and stuff when you were younger?
I took half a semester of art in high school. It ended at that just because the school I went to, all the money was pumped into football and baseball and things like that. So a lot of people weren't really encouraged to explore artistically, and art class kind of just became like a credit for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was already in marching band, so I had that like credit. I didn't need it, but I wanted to take art, and kids would pick on me or steal my pieces off the drying rack and like tear them up or, you know, stuff like that. So to me, art was just not the greatest experience in school. Recently, I took classes through Cornell for botanical illustration because I do really love plants and the world around me, and I thought like taking a class that would maybe be more helpful of me, like being able to dissect something from a scientific standpoint to be more accurate when drawing plants and things like that. And freaking colleges, I had to write so many stupid papers, and I had to write so many discussion board posts and reply to so many people that it kind of like...
Discussion board posts are the worst.
I hate it.
Because it's like something so obvious, and you have to make this many comments. And
have a word
replies.
count. Yeah. So you're just like, wow, you did a really great job, Serena. When I'm looking at this piece, I see this kind of emotion, and it's just like... I'm not going to walk up to someone and be like, wow, Sabrina, way to go, girl. That looks sick. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to freaking do that. So then it's just have conversation with people like it's online. Have conversation with people you're never going to meet in your whole life. No, I don't want to. I don't even want to talk to people I know.
like I can see it for like English or like writing or something.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. But when you're doing like just creative stuff, it's like hard to force that sort of thing.
I hated it.
And I also hate like the creative stuff where then they make you collaborate with people.
Yeah.
And you it's the worst.
Well, and
anyway,
everybody's artistic approach is going to be from like this angle or this angle or this angle. You know, it's no one's going to look at something the same way. So whenever someone starts a piece, everybody's original sketches are gonna, like, if we're all staring at the same thing, all of our original sketches like are gonna look completely different because no one's gonna start the same way. Everybody's brain operates differently. And so to like collaborate with someone else, heck no. Like, that's confusing. And I think,
and there's always the one person who doesn't respond.
Yeah.
And you're
carrying all the weight. Yeah.
You have to include them somehow.
Right. And then smile and pretend like they deserve credit, even though you just freaking broke yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like, they'd always have us write the reviews, and I'm like, I'm not going to just like rat on this guy.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm going to give him an 80.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Team player.
Yeah. But, so you mentioned, you took a botanical art course. So your work, like looking at it and stuff, there's a lot of like, natural sort of design. You do a lot of like bugs, animals, you know, everything that's in this room.
Yeah.
Plants.
Literally, I just surrounded myself with stuff I like.
So when did that kind of become your style or go-to thing?
As far as like tattooing goes, I think it was kind of crazy. Just out of nowhere, I was like, I got interested in pinning insects, and I was a first year tattooer, and I thought like, I could tattoo this. This is really cool. So then I just started tattooing a bunch of moths on people, and it really like took off. And then I'm just like, hey guys, are y'all into bugs? And everybody else was like, yes, please. And so like now it's to the point where like if I just draw bugs, like my books could be full. People love insects, and I just really thought like it was this niche thing that like no one cared about or people were disgusted by. But I love insects. Like I have 27 blue death feigning beetles at home, and I also am raising a Goliathus beetle. Right now he's a grub, so he's just really gross looking, and I love him. But
and I know the Goliath one.
Yeah.
What are the death blue veins?
Okay, so they're like a dusty blue color, like a blueberry. They can't bite you or anything, and like literally they're like fainting goats. They feign death. Like if I reach my hand in there and I scoop one up, they'll just keel over on their backs and faint. It's like tiny little fainting goats, and I love them so much, and they make me laugh so much because they're just goobers. But
Yeah. So you were saying that, like that kind of came in once you started your like tattooing career. So before that, like, did you have any set style in art, or was it just like you kind of came into that?
I think early on you kind of just most mentors will start you out with more of like a traditional style, because traditional, even though it looks simpler, is a lot harder to do, which for me, it felt like pulling teeth because I'm a more detail-oriented person, and traditional tattoos take out a lot of the finer details. And I think it's a really pretty balance where it's like, we took out all of these details, but you still know this is a woman and she's a cowgirl and she's standing against a fence. But then, if I were to draw it in the way that my mind would do it, it would be like really like, oh, she's got chaps on. She's got those little silver things on the chat. Like I would be like over the top about it. Yeah. And so I really appreciate the traditional tattoo style. But I just find myself adding more detail. So most mentors will start you off on traditional because you're going to get your basics in there. You're going to get crispy lines. You're going to be able to like whip the color out, pack the color. And so there's like a lot of techniques that are really used for every single traditional design that, you kind of need to grasp to move on from there. And so I think within that first year, I was still trying to find myself. In watercolor, like every medium I pick up, I feel like it's a different style for me because I'm just using a different way to communicate. It's like if I'm making music or if I'm painting a picture, it's going to be a different form of self-expression. So to me, tattooing kind of took on its own, and maybe it's not the kind of art that like I would paint. Maybe it's not the kind of art that like I would, sculpt, but I think I've kind of found a place that I feel, I don't want to say comfortable because comfortable kind of makes it feel like I'm not going to keep pushing and to get better, but like I feel like I've hit kind of a stride and that I can build off of and I can refine and I can add to. And so I think I finally found myself in tattooing. Yeah.
So what about like your at-home artwork, like when you were a kid and stuff? Like, did you have any like set style with that, or?
When I was a kid, I drew a lot of animals, and I drew people like a lot, because to me the human face is really interesting because there's so many kinds, and maybe you've messed up in your drawing, but there's probably someone out there who still looks like that, or maybe a little bit more busted even, but. So that was a lot of what I drew. When I was really little, I used to draw tigers like all the freaking time. I don't draw tigers anymore. I don't freaking draw tigers anymore.
Any particular reason, or just you're done with your tiger period?
No one, yeah. It was like my blue period, but it was tigers. Yeah. No, I don't know.
She went from the tiger period into her beetle fascination.
Yeah. And now she's in her beetle period. Yeah. No, I don't know. I guess more people are interested in bugs.
Yeah.
And smaller critters. I mean, I've tattooed a tiger. I mean, it's whatever, but I'm just not going out of my way to just go draw them.
Yeah.
I traveled to Dallas fairly recent and went to an art store, and I splurged and I bought myself some watercolor paper that was like handmade, and I got it home and I was so excited, and then I didn't even use it for like 2 weeks, and then I did finally, and I hated it. But I painted a frog who was just like a little wizard guy. I don't normally tattoo wizard frogs on people, but I don't know. Sometimes I think it's healthy to just let your brain be weird.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you that because how I work when I like draw something or whatever, like if I try to force myself without like an idea already in my head, like I'm terrible at drawing. But sometimes like that inspiration, call it the muse or whatever, it'll just like hit me. There's like a fully formed thing in my head, and I can put that on paper, but I get like really frustrated if I don't.
Yeah.
So like when you are doing a what would you call it?
Like if I'm designing for a tattoo?
Yeah, like I guess a commission or whatever with tattoos.
Yeah.
And do they come to you with like this fully formed idea already, and you got to figure out what that is?
It's sometimes people like are like, I would like, and then they will list things that they want to include and like kind of an idea on placement. They'll be like, I would like a Luna moth with a moon above its head and then a laurel kind of around the sides. And I'm like, okay, duh. They drew the picture for me basically, and my brain like got this. And then sometimes people will be like, I don't know, I just want like a cat with some plants. Oh, sick. Like, do you want just his face? Do you want his whole body? Like, what do you want? But I think the cool thing about where I'm at with tattooing is that people kind of trust me more. So, and a lot of people will even just like schedule appointments with me, and they're like, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And so then I do get that kind of freedom. When you first start, it's a lot more of like working towards people's ideas. But when you get a little bit kind of to the point where I am, you can get comfortable in like people are trusting you, or like the customs aren't like necessarily like a priority to take on. Like you don't have to. But when I'm drawing customs, I think because my job is drawing every day, it's sometimes I have mental block, yeah, for sure. But then sometimes I have to revisit something. So I always try and start my drawings like ahead of time. Yeah. Instead of like day of, like 10 minutes before.
So with that, like, what time period do you do this in? Do you like schedule it so far ahead you already have like several renditions of it, or is it collaborative? Or
so basically people will fill out the booking form like on my website, and it'll be like 3 months before their appointment is actually set. So you know, my books are going to open next week, and those people will be booking for like July appointments. So that kind of thing is there's time. People are sitting on like the fact that they sent me their idea, and typically like week of I'll get rough sketches of everything kind of put together, and then the day before and the day of I'm cleaning up the sketches and I'm putting the final touches on it. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily collaborative, other than the fact that they told me what they wanted and I drew it. And it's not that I have to make changes very often. I just try and tell people like, hey, please be as specific as possible when you're filling out my inquiry form, just so, you know, there's no back and forth. I don't have to be like, okay, but like, where do you want me to put the cat? You know?
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty helpful. And if I have questions, I'm always like, hey, so how are you wanting this to fit on your arm? Because I don't understand how you described it in the email.
Yeah.
But I don't show people their drawings until they get here the day of, because it stops a lot of the back and forth, and I don't necessarily have time for like 6,000 revisions. A friend and I joke because she used to show people their drawings way ahead of time, and there was this one specific time where the woman wanted Mary in the form of like the Mother of Sorrows, like crying that Jesus had been killed, and she's like, okay, can you add more swords? And she's like, yeah, no problem. She adds more swords. And then the woman's like, okay, but can you add like a couple flowers? She's like, yeah, no problem. Adds a couple flowers. And then she's like, actually, I think I just want a panther. And she was like, and so that was like this.
I'm thinking either Mother Mary or
a panther. Yeah. And so we joke about it all the time. Like I'll comment on her stuff and I'm like, I just wish this was a panther.
Can we do a panther, but it's in the form of an Orthodox icon?
Yes. I love that. Yeah. I actually might go home and draw that, honestly. I could see it.
Yeah. So, so you talked about, like, learning a very traditional style starting out. So, like, how many, like, different styles are there, or do you like learn when you're doing that apprenticeship sort of deal?
So a lot of people are taught to do every freaking style out there. The mentor that I had, he kind of just helped me kind of get started, and just kind of let me do a lot of leading. I never learned to do realism. I can draw realism, but I never learned to tattoo it. And to me, I feel like it wouldn't be that fun to do realism because I feel like it would take a lot of the creative process out of it for me. There's other styles, I think, like watercolor. I don't think it ages well.
Yeah. It's a little blotchy.
Yeah, and as someone who is an actual watercolor artist, I take offense to just the paint splatter. To me, it just feels really like Lisa Frank instead of like, which I love Lisa Frank, but like, it doesn't feel like it's actually supposed to look like someone painted it with watercolor. It just looks like paint just thrown across something. So I don't like it and I don't do it. I learned black work, which is using only black ink and doing like a stipple style shading, so like little dots. And I love that. And then I'll also do color, but my color work is more of like an illustrative, like neo-traditional-ish kind of style. I think I sit in between on a lot of things. So we've got like traditional, then you've got like neo-traditional, and then you have realism. Whereas like traditional is going to be like a very basic color palette. You're going to back everything with black as far as shadows go, and you're going to take out a lot of detail. Neo-traditional, put those details back in there. We're not going to back everything with black. We're going to use like 16 different shades of red to kind of like blend a color out, right? And then you've got like your realism, which is like no lines at all. And you're using like, if it's color, you're using like 27 colors just on someone's like eyelid, so it's like you've got like this
so realism is like trying to make it like photorealistic. Okay.
Yeah. And
I was thinking more in like the I don't know, like because I think like when you said like realism, I was like, well, that's sort of like your very like illustrative style that I see in a lot of your stuff, where it looks like you're opening up like an old textbook.
Scientific. Yeah. No. So yeah, this would be like photorealism. So it's like a portrait of grandpa.
Yeah.
That you're getting tattooed on your arm. And it's beautiful. And there's people that do it wonderful. And they're doing a great job. I love that for them. And they love doing it. So kudos. I feel like I would be bored.
Yeah.
And then, there's, I think it started maybe like 5 years ago. I think it's called ignorant style. And it's people that sometimes I don't think that they've ever had a proper apprenticeship or have been taught to tattoo. So the techniques are not great and you can tell. And then the artwork is pretty crappy. So it'll be like almost like what a child could draw. And the craziest thing is these people are in New York City and they're charging hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these little like child drawings that they're getting tattooed on them. And I don't get it, but you know, art is subjective, I guess, is the nice thing to say. But, there's something out there for everybody, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So you talked about, like, wanting to have that, like, creative freedom and stuff like that. So, like, how would you define, like, creativity in what you're doing?
Creativity for me in what I'm doing would be me getting to tattoo more of the things that came out of my brain, as opposed to just what, like, a client would want. So, like, I have a lot of thoughts and ideas that I think would make really cool tattoos, and I would love to put those, like, on skin. So to me, that's the creative freedom that I get. Or when, like, in smaller doses, when someone's like, whatever plants you want to put with this, or what, like, however you want to make it flow, things like that, where maybe they give me, like, a little bit of the subject matter, but then they're like, but have fun with it. That kind of thing to me is the smaller doses of creativity that I get to experience versus, like, full creative freedom. I have people that show up and they're just like, I don't know, girl, do whatever you want. And I love that. I love those people. I love you guys. You're cute. I love you. And I love the people that know what they want and they have a clear idea too. I'm not hating on that. Heck yeah. There are days where my brain can't function well. Like, God love those people.
Yeah. So, if somebody is looking to become, like, a tattoo artist, how would you suggest from, like, just, like, the idea of, hey, I might be a tattoo artist or I want to try that, to, like, completely going through the process? How would you suggest they go about that?
That's a heavy question, and you probably didn't expect that to be, but as someone who has...
I asked the hard questions.
Yeah, you do, dadgum. So hard. Okay. I had 3 apprenticeships, just because people aren't perfect, and some people maybe don't take what this job is seriously, or maybe they're using it for their personal gain. So if you want to be a tattoo artist, do not DM a tattoo artist or call the shop they work at and ask for an apprenticeship. That's a big no-no. Don't freaking do that. Don't freaking do it. You should be drawing every single day. And you should have a very big portfolio to show that you've been drawing every day. And painting, spit shade painting, specifically.
So
what I was going to say, you can Google it, but it's, like, if you see old school flash, it's a type of painting that they do. They're not, they're kind of using you're using your mouth to get the excess water off of the brush, but
so that's where you, like, spit on the needle and then go back to tattooing.
No. I'm not making my own needles, so I pray to God that the company that I'm ordering them from makes them sharp enough that I don't have to test it on my own tongue. But cross-contamination, it's come a long way. But I think that if you want to tattoo, then you need to make sure you're the right kind of person that someone would want to teach. I have people ask me all the time, no, I don't want to freaking teach anyone else. The next person that I plan to apprentice would be my own kid, who's 9 right now. So I'm tired and I don't want to teach anybody else. So don't ask me.
So what does it mean being the type of person somebody wants to teach? Like,
I think you need to be hardworking. I think that at the end of the day, you could probably be the dumbest person on the planet, but if you work really hard, then you're a better candidate than someone who is gifted in art just naturally and then doesn't ever draw or doesn't listen or doesn't try. I think that there's, you could be so freaking gifted, and if you're just lazy and you just think you're showing up to get some sort of, like, rights to some rock and roll lifestyle, then, like, you're not a good candidate. I don't think those people ever really make it that far. Maybe big in their own hometown, but like past that point, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Honestly, if I were looking for someone to teach, I would want them to have a big portfolio where they can prove that they can do a bunch of different styles. I would want them to know a lot about tattooing and the history of where the machines started and things like that. And honestly, I think the best way to get in with a shop is go and get tattooed and talk and hang out with them and get to know them before you even kind of ask for an apprenticeship. I think that to me, it shows dedication and it's respectful.
Yeah. So just don't DM them. Just go get a bunch of tattoos.
Yeah, don't freaking DM me. I don't know you. I'm not seeing your portfolio. Honestly, like if you're not old enough to get tattooed, you can come by the shop and bring a portfolio, and look at it. And when the person says, I can give you some critiques, say, oh my God, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, please tell me, what can I improve on? And then you take those critiques and then you go home and you freaking improve, and you take those critiques to heart and you freaking improve. You don't just go, oh, that person was freaking rude.
Yeah.
And then you show back up and you say, hey, would you check out my artwork again? I worked really hard. I think that you might see some progress there. And then they'll probably say, yeah, sure. And then they'll look at it and they'll say, yeah, I mean, you did pretty good, but here, you could improve here and here and here. And then you go home. And then, and it's just like, you work hard.
So that kind of the process you went through? Or was it like, don't DM because that's what I did?
No. My first apprenticeship was like that. I pushed myself. Second apprenticeship was like that. I pushed myself. I wanted to be the person. I would show up, and if I didn't have anything to do, when my mentor got there, I was dusting and sweeping and mopping and wiping stuff down and like checking the voicemails, and I was making myself like I was doing all of the shop work in order to have the freedom to watch my mentor tattoo or to ask questions, so they didn't have to worry about taking out the trash or things like that. I already freaking did it,
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to prove to you that I want to be here and this is what I want. So, sending a DM, that doesn't really prove anything to me. That doesn't show me that you're dedicated or that you care about the craft. It's just like you thought, well, I could draw, I probably could do it, and that's not all it's about.
Yeah. So, just because that's the last thing you said, how hard is it to translate drawing into using a tattoo gun?
To using a tattoo machine, I think it really just depends on the style that you draw in. Like, I couldn't begin to tell you how to change like realism into what I do, because that's just not the style that I do. But if there are hard lines in your drawings, then that could feasibly be translated. I think what happens a lot is someone will bring me their drawing and say, tattoo this on me, and like wow, way to go, you drew a picture and it's dope, and that doesn't necessarily mean it'll make a good tattoo. There are certain aspects that you have to look at when designing a tattoo: the flow on the body, how it's going to age, so the size that it's going to be at, because all ink spreads a little bit over time before it's like settled and isn't moving anymore. So you don't want lines that are like super close together. So although like your drawing may be cool, maybe it wouldn't necessarily be like a good tattoo. So I always have to tell people, like, you can send me your drawing, but I'm going to have to make some adjustments. Mm-hmm. Most people understand.
Yeah. So what is like the biggest misconception people have about being a tattoo artist or working at a tattoo shop?
I don't know. Maybe people think that it's an easy job or that it's just always fun. It's not always fun. It's not easy. But like when I was younger, I looked at tattooers and I thought it's like some random person from a town I live in, and I'm like, oh my God, it's them. I see them at the grocery store, and I'm like, oh my God. But that's just because of the perspective of like, I look up to this person, they're doing the job that I want to do. So like maybe other people outside think like, oh, wow, there's a tattoo artist in the wild. But and they probably think like, you're so cool. Artist. Yeah, they think like, oh my God, you're just so cool. And I'm like looking raggedy as heck trying to buy some groceries.
Yeah, but that just shows how cool you are. You don't care. You're just
I don't know. I kind of roll out of bed every day and just hope for the best.
So I was just wondering, like, because like I feel like it's kind of going away now, but like there has been like a stigma about like tattoos and stuff. Like, was your family always like supportive, go ahead sort of thing, or?
My family is a bunch of crazy people that I don't necessarily have a relationship with, so. I think I get a free pass there. Like, I do whatever I want. But like
pros, I can do whatever
I mean, I only have to go to one Christmas outside of my own. It's pretty great. No, it's a painful childhood behind all that, but
See, this, I'm the journalist. I'm pushing for these.
You're asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
I feel the weight of this question. I'm not sure if you do, but I do. So
if no, listen,
you're fine.
Honestly, if you want, you can just skip.
No, you're fine. I came from like a I was raised in kind of like a cult that was more on the charismatic Christian side. Mm-hmm. And early memories I have are like them praying tattoos would come off of people's bodies. Yeah. So for me to be where I am now, they probably think that like, oh, I'm going to hell or whatever. But as an adult who has made their own decisions and done the research, and I'm a Christian. I don't subscribe to like the charismatics or the things that they did. I think it is kind of crazy to. I mean, I can go to church, and there's people I've tattooed people that I go to church with. Like I come from a healthier environment where I am now than where like I came from as a child. So yeah, I didn't have support. No, I didn't, but I do now.
Yeah.
and that's pretty cool. I think that a lot of people still are very confused on what the Bible says about tattoos. My husband has a degree in theology, and he would probably maybe fight tooth and nail for people to understand what it actually means, and the rituals that they were doing back in the day that caused that section of the Bible to be written. And I think it is weird that people will choose that out of like a list of things that people weren't supposed to do. It's like, mm-hmm. Don't mix your fabrics, yeah. Like, but like, girl, look at that label inside your shirt. It's got like all sorts of fabrics mixed together. There's like all those things that like everyone will overlook, but then tattoos is kind of like where everyone stubs their toe, right? It's like, oh, it's the elephant in the room. It's the thing that like you can't get rid of. And there's nothing wrong with tattoos.
And we'll leave it there, right?
And we'll leave it there.
So, going from your religious background.
Yeah, let's dive deeper.
Let's dive deep. So we'll skip the one story you told me last time we recorded.
Thank God.
Although I'd love to embarrass you more.
Oh, God. Listen, everyone, I get nervous and I talk. It's a true story.
So Because I'm sure there's got to be multiple ones.
Yeah, of course.
So what's like your second craziest tattooing story, or just like a quirky anecdote, or?
Can I tell you? Let me think. Can I tell you a story about when I was an apprentice?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I was an apprentice. It was my second apprenticeship out of the 3. The second one, not a super healthy environment, but it happened. We were there. Okay, so I worked at this shop that was kind of like off a highway, like kind of in the middle of nowhere, and this guy gets
I know that
dropped off. Yeah, you've heard of it. Everyone has. This guy gets dropped off. Like a truck pulls up, this guy gets out, and this guy's like, he's like, listen, me and my dad, we were banging our drums down in Frankston, Texas, and we opened a portal. And my dad got taken into the portal, and I need a tattoo on my shoulder, or I'm gonna lose my dad. And we were like, what? and he goes on and on and on and on and on. He keeps going, and he's like, we opened this portal. We had to fight these guys. They took my dad. I have to get this tattoo. He said, I need a crown of thorns on my shoulder with 3 drops of blood. 3 drops. And he kept specifying, like, I need the 3 drops, and like, none of what he was saying made sense. I'm like 99% sure that the man was not okay.
Yeah.
And my mentor was like, I cannot tattoo you tonight. I am fully booked. And so is everyone else here. If you want, I can schedule you an appointment for tomorrow. So he's thinking, this man is on drugs. He's going to go home. He's going to sober up and not even remember that he has an appointment.
Yeah.
No, this man was not on drugs. He was just crazy. He came back the next day, and like he was wearing all of this like turquoise and silver jewelry, like bracelets, like almost up to his elbow, rings on every finger, necklaces. And he's like, anyone that walked in the tattoo shop, he would turn around and be like, we were banging our drums down in Frankston, Texas. Just go into it. And then he'd be like, I know the spirit realm is real close because all my turquoise is turning black. And we're like looking at his rings, and it's just because his hands are so dirty. Like all of his jewelry is just so dirty. Like it hasn't been cleaned. Like you could dunk that stuff in some Windex and it would come out like shining. But this man is just like so dirty.
I'm gonna have to look up like the significance of a crown of thorns and 3 drops.
I have
like
no
if there
idea.
is any.
What do drums and a portal have to do with anything? Like it was just the weirdest thing.
Well, as a hand drummer myself, that happens from time to
You're like,
time.
listen, I can relate. I've opened a portal. Rest in peace, Dad. But
I just didn't want it on my shoulder. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So my mentor's like, okay, I guess I'm just going to tattoo this crazy man. And this tattoo is huge. Like, it is, like, all around his shoulder. And he wanted, like, some of the thorns, like, cutting into his skin, which is, like, so 90s. But my mentor, like, busted out that tattoo, I want to say, in, like, 30 minutes. A tattoo that probably should have taken a couple hours. He was like, I got to get this crazy man out of here, because anyone would look at him and he would just start the story all over again. And I mean, he did that tattoo, and then a truck came and picked him up and they left. And I hope he got his dad out of that portal. I'll never know. I'll never know the end of this story.
Fortunately, he disappeared into the spirit realm, and
Yeah.
we'll probably never see him again.
Maybe one day his son will get the same tattoo and save him. The weirdest part is, like, he was dropped off by a truck. Like,
Yeah. Like, was it like an 18-wheeler truck, or
no,
like
just like a truck. Like,
was it
just
the same truck that picked him up?
Yeah,
or?
yeah. And these people like dropped him off, and then like, so if you had like a crazy uncle who was just going on and on about this, would you take him to go get a tattoo? Because he's clearly not in the right mindset to get tattooed, right?
Yeah.
I think if my uncle was like that, we'd be like, shh, hey, Dateline's on, like.
Go get mad at whatever politician.
Yeah, here's a warm glass of milk, and and leave it at that. But these people were like, all right, man, I'll take you. That makes me feel like the portal was real. The fact that somebody dropped him off and picked him up, and then dropped him off again and picked him up. I think the portal was real.
Maybe one day we'll find it.
It's in Frankston.
Let's go to Frank's.
Bring your drum.
Everybody, if we get enough people, we can fan out.
Yeah. I'll bring my machine just in case we need any shoulder tattoos. You know,
I'll bring the djembes.
I'm here for it. I think it'll be great. What an event. I'll make the Facebook event. We can invite everyone we know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap this up. So
Perfect.
If you want to shout out your stuff or anybody else, just
you could follow me on Instagram at The Young Warrior. Or
okay, I do have a question. Where did that come from?
Oh,
like,
okay.
was that a pre?
So going back, crappy childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ran away from home at 17. And my grandma was living in the Dallas area, and she had kind of fallen on hard times and gotten like really depressed and had attempted to take her own life. And I called her at the care facility she was at, and I told her, like, you're a freaking warrior, like, you're so strong, like, you can do this. She had made like strides with counseling and stuff like that, and she said, I'm not a warrior. You're a warrior. You're young, but you're a warrior. And so it just kind of stuck. And I think, like, even when I'm 90, like, whatever stupid social media I have to subscribe to, that'll still be my name on there. Even when I'm not young. I'm not young now, but, like, you know, I'm just going to keep it forever.
Yeah. Well, that's an even better way to end the podcast, you know. Like
my grandma was
meaningful.
not in a portal. I just want to specify for the listeners. She did not end up in a portal.
But you can follow that portal online too. The Young Warrior at Instagram.
Yeah. I have Facebook, but I hate it. So don't be that person. Don't be that person.
And then you've got a website too, right?
Yeah, micahlewisart.com.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Scheduling's been crazy.
It has been.
I messed up the first one.
No, I think this went way better. And
yeah,
you got to hear
and this one was a lot more
story.
fun. This one was a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.